There's a parable often told to describe the unpredictability of life. A farmer's horse runs away, and his neighbors tell him, "Such bad luck." The farmer replies, "Maybe." The next day, the horse returns with 3 wild horses. The neighbors say, "How wonderful." The farmer replies again, "Maybe." Later, his son breaks his leg trying to tame one of the wild horses. "How terrible," the neighbors say. "Maybe," the farmer answers. Days later, the army comes through the village to conscript young men for war, but because of his broken leg, the farmer's son is spared. That parable perfectly captures the Nova effect, the idea that our perception of events as good or bad is often short-sighted, that what seems like a loss can become a blessing, and what appears to be a victory can bring unexpected pain. The Nova effect, named after the way a star collapses before it explodes into a radiant nova, reminds us that the most transformative experiences in life often emerge from what first looks like destruction. It's a theory rooted in chaos, probability, and human bias, and it reveals how little control we truly have over outcomes and how much power we gain by embracing uncertainty. At its core, the Nova effect exposes a fundamental flaw in the human mind: our obsession with prediction. The brain craves order. It wants to categorize every experience as either progress or failure. We do this to feel safe, to believe we're in control. But life doesn't operate on those binary terms. Psychologically, we're wired to experience immediacy bias, the tendency to judge events based on how they feel in the moment, rather than their long-term impact. When something painful happens, our nervous system activates a stress response, and we label it as bad. Yet the brain has no concept of future context. It doesn't see the chain reaction that may follow, how that breakup might lead to a better relationship, how losing a job might redirect you toward your real calling, or how failure might force you to grow. The Nova effect is a rebellion against this short-sightedness. It's the understanding that the human story is non-linear, that pain and joy are often chapters in the same book, and that we rarely know what anything truly means until much later. To understand the Nova effect, you have to think in terms of systems, not moments. Every event in your life is connected to countless others in ways you can't see. The smallest decision, the smallest coincidence, can create a ripple that changes everything. This is what chaos theory calls sensitive dependence on initial conditions, more commonly known as the butterfly effect. The Nova effect operates within that same unpredictable network. A single disruption, like losing an opportunity or facing rejection, might look catastrophic in isolation, but it can rearrange your trajectory towards something far more aligned with who you are. Order is built from chaos. The explosion of a dying star creates new elements, new worlds. Likewise, the collapse of something in your life, an identity, a job, a relationship, often creates the conditions for transformation. The destruction is part of the creation. Think about Steve Jobs. Getting fired from Apple, the company he founded, was publicly humiliating. He described it as devastating. But that very exile gave him the creative freedom to start Next and acquire Pixar, both of which redefined his vision and eventually led to his triumphant return to Apple. The worst thing that happened to him turned out to be the most necessary. Or consider J.K. Rowling, rejected by multiple publishers, living on welfare, and struggling as a single mother. Each rejection felt like another nail in the coffin of her dream. But those years of hardship sharpened her focus and deepened her writing. When Harry Potter finally broke through, it did so with the emotional depth only suffering could have taught her. The Nova effect doesn't promise happy endings. It reveals that meaning often hides inside chaos. The pain doesn't guarantee reward, but it changes you in a way that prepares you for what's next. That transformation, that inner explosion, is the Nova itself. One of the most self-defeating habits we have is premature judgment, deciding immediately whether something is good or bad for us. We do this because uncertainty feels unbearable. The mind wants closure, but labeling experiences too early blinds us to their potential. When you say, "This is terrible," you close off curiosity. You stop looking for the hidden opportunity inside the disruption. But when you stay neutral, when you respond like the farmer in the parable and simply say, "Maybe," You create mental space for life to surprise you. That space is psychological flexibility. It's emotional resilience. It's the ability to live with what Carl Jung called creative tension, the discomfort of not knowing, which eventually leads to wisdom. The Nova effect also applies to love. You meet someone, it feels perfect, and then it ends in heartbreak. The mind says, I lost something good. But often, what you lost wasn't love. It was an illusion of compatibility. That breakup might force you to confront your own needs, boundaries, and patterns, setting you up for a more genuine connection later. The same principle applies to friendships, betrayals, and even loneliness. When people exit your life, it can feel like loss, but sometimes it's subtraction by design, clearing space for alignment, purpose, and peace. To live by the Nova effect is to practice radical patience. It means understanding that the meaning of an event can change over time. What feels like failure now might later reveal itself as the foundation of your success. 1. Stop labeling events too quickly. When something unexpected happens, pause before judging it. Replace "this is bad" with "let's see where this goes." 2. Detach from outcomes. Focus on process, not control. You can shape your effort, not the universe's response. 3. Reflect on your past. Think of times when things went wrong, but ended up right. Train your brain to remember that uncertainty can be a gift. 4. Find meaning in disruption. Every loss or failure creates data about yourself, who you are, what you value, what you need to change. 5. Let chaos create order. Instead of resisting the unknown, learn to move with it. Growth doesn't come from clinging, it comes from adapting. The Nova effect teaches humility. It reminds us that we are not the authors of fate, but participants in a story too complex to predict. What looks like collapse might be expansion in disguise. What looks like an ending might simply be a redirection. The explosion of a dying star is violent, chaotic, and destructive. Yet it's that same explosion that gives birth to light, planets, and life itself. The same happens within us. When everything falls apart, the light that follows is not in spite of the chaos, but because of it. So when life breaks your plans, maybe it isn't breaking you. Maybe it's clearing the space you needed for something greater. That's the Nova effect, the art of trusting that even in destruction, creation is already underway.